You may be seated. Good evening, everyone. And I want to extend my warmest welcome to all of you, university colleagues, staff, faculty, administrators, and to, of course, the parents, friends, and family of the year 2018 graduates of the program in environmental design. My name's Kevin Kryzik, and I have the privilege of serving as the director of the program in environmental design. And as a campus, many of us attended the graduation ceremony yesterday morning, kicking off a whole season, if you will, 72 hours of graduation activity, 48 hours, but they saved the best for last here with the program in environmental design. And we look forward to sharing this joyous and meaningful celebration of our community, which has you, the students, of course, at the core, and to celebrate our work is why, your work is why we're here today. But prior to turning our undivided attention to you, I think let's just pay our respects to three other groups who have helped anchor you through the past 4 years. The first is the staff. They advised you on the curriculum, they helped get you information and get you through the system, and they were just an unwavering supportive presence, I think, at every turn of your past 4 years. And so can we just ask the staff to rise very quickly? Thank you. Thank you. The second is the ENVD community of faculty, so you know who they are. They are your instructors. They tasked you to jump to a higher bar. They probably sent you through the ringer. They may have thrown a ringer for a ringer. So ladies and gentlemen, the faculty on the stage, can I ask you to please rise so we can acknowledge your contributions? Thank you. So this time of year, by virtue of our apparel, we collectively apply for admittance to the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Personally, I get a little emotional every year, not because I had some sort of obsession with Godfrey Greyfinder, but it was with my parents, who are the ones that bought this costume for me. And so when I wear this gown, what comes to me is most strongly is the feeling of being nurtured, supported, respected, and loved, and these are often the feelings that too often go glossed over. So with these emotions in mind, students, I'd like to take a moment for us to collectively recognize an often unacknowledged part of why we're here today. We have students who, they're so happy to be here, but also before us are your friends, your faculty, your staff, but your family. So these are the parents, the grandparents, the aunts and uncles, siblings, spouses, partners, children who have put up with everything that you've brought home, including those 1052 projects. Your distractions from home life, we hope, which are not necessarily telling your parents that you almost got your finger cut off by the CNC machine out at the sink. And so can I just ask you to be so bold as to stand up and turn around and thank those behind you and perhaps spot an eye of acknowledgement with someone in particular. Thanks, guys. So you'll soon be escaping not only the university environment here, but also the Boulder bubble, and there are absolutely unprecedented social, political, technological, environmental forces that are flexing their muscles in ways that we as a society have not really seen in recent decades. I opened my New York Times, and it used to be just above the fold, but now it's above the fold and below the fold. We hear about things that are shaking our world in really, really amazing ways, and quite challenging ways. But behind every ounce of challenging and terrifying, there are 2 ounces of excitement, okay? And through this rough and exciting ride that you guys have been on for the past 4 years, we are confident that we have provided you with an education to better encounter these countless challenges. Your training as a designer provides you with a powerful springboard that we're not going to say outside this room, but those with majors in chemistry or physics or whatever else don't have, okay? So your role as a designer, is really, really an amazing attribute that you can bring to society, and we're going to hear more about that from our featured speaker this evening. The education that we've been able to serve you with over the past 4 years, let's think of it this way. It's like a good minestrone soup. What do I mean by that? You need to change here, you need to change there, you need to change the ingredients by the season. There might be a focus here at one point, there might be a focus here on another point, but unwavering, we hope that we have instilled a sense of energy and interest about being a designer, and in particular, a sense of stewardness of the environment that helps make you an environmental designer. So there's a lot of balance that this requires, and so you're joining the ranks of almost 6,000 other individuals who have also received a Bachelor's of Environmental Design from the University of Colorado Boulder. And this is going to provide you with a unique education that is, shall we say, able to address these challenges that we as society are faced with on not a daily basis, but 18 times a day, if you know what I mean. You always need to find some sort of design solution. So these skills will undoubtedly help you as you progress towards a more sustainable future here on planet Earth, and you and your counterparts across this nation give us very, very great hope for the future. We are here to celebrate your accomplishments. We have 5 quick parts to our program, and then we will bestow the degrees. We have the first part, which is honoring our PhD student. The second are the Latin honors. The third are outstanding graduates. And then right before the bestowance of degrees, we will hear from our distinguished speaker. Brian Muller, Associate Professor of Environmental Design.
So I have the honor tonight, the great honor, of introducing Mady Harris, who's receiving a doctoral degree in urban planning with a dissertation entitled Do Planning and Design Policies and Procedures Matter in Microclimate Management and Urban Heat Mitigation? Dissertation titles have to be long. Mady was first our student, then our colleague, and then our dear friend, and we will miss him. Mady's faculty asked that we give Mady special recognition today for all the wonderful services he's provided to our department program and to us, to the students, as a teacher, as a research colleague, and in many, many other ways. Thank you, Mady.
It is my privilege to tell you about some of our highest achieving students in the environmental design program, those graduating with honors. We have 2 types of honors in the environmental design program. The first kind is honors is those based on students' grade point average. Students who have maintained a GPA between 3.5 and 3.749 receive honors. Students who have maintained a GPA with above 3.7.9, 3.7.5 and above receive special honors. Will those students receiving honors or special honors please stand? 4 years ago, we joined the Arts and Sciences Honors Council to begin offering thesis-based Latin honors. In this program, students must meet GPA requirements and then complete an independent project. They work with a committee member of at least 3 faculty members to carry out a scholarly project of their own choosing. These projects can be research or design-based, but ultimately they meet the high standards of the scholarship that are set by the Honors Council. Like students who pursue a master's or PhD, our thesis honors students present their work publicly and defend their thesis to their committee. The level of honors, summa, magna, or cum laude, is awarded based on a mixture of the student's GPA, their written work, and their oral defense. Regardless of the level of honors awarded, these students have worked incredibly hard to produce a piece of scholarship recognized by the university as worthy by honors. This year, 3 students were awarded ENVD honors from the Arts and Sciences Honors Council, receiving summa cum laude for her thesis, Reframing the Narrative, Urban Art, Civil Discourse, and hashtag Opt Outside, Natalie Bagnano. Receiving summa cum laude for her thesis, Designing an Immersive World, Exploring Theme Park Through Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away, Elise Skinner. And receiving cum laude for his thesis, Farm at Table, Reshaping How Restaurants Impact the Food System Through Permaculture Design Practices, Christopher Diaz. Congratulations to all of you.
Each spring, ENVD recognizes students who have achieved the highest cumulative GPA in their specialization with the Environmental Design Distinguished title. So I'm here to introduce Ellie Hassan, who is our outstanding planning graduate. It is a pleasure to introduce Ellie as our outstanding graduate. I met her in our senior level planning seminar, and she quickly became one of the top students in the class, brilliantly incisive and always deeply supportive of her classmates. 2 other faculty members very much wanted to introduce Ellie, but could not be with us here today, so Georgia Lindsay and Stacy Schulte have asked me to read this statement on their behalf. We first met Ellie when she was a peer leader for freshman lecture course. Her maturity and calm competence was perfectly suited to the task of leading weekly recitations for freshman design students. The next year, we saw that leadership and responsibility are just 2 of her many qualities. As a student in a junior studio, her design skills and passion for planning and urban design shone brightly. In seminar courses, Ellie is quiet yet engaged, and she asks insightful questions that pierce to the heart of the issue under discussion. She always reaches beyond the assignment requirements to deeply understand the ideas behind assignments, implying that her true goal is deep learning. As faculty in ENVD, it is special joy to work with students who are diligent, committed, and passionate. Ellie is such a student. She takes this stuff seriously, as Georgia says, like really seriously. So congratulations on your accomplishment, Ellie. All 3 of us look forward to your future.
Thanks so much for the introduction. So to start, when I chose to go to school at CU, I thought I really wanted to do civil engineering. When I got into the civil engineering school, I learned, okay, here's how you design a bridge that's not gonna fall over, here's how you make a building that's not gonna crumble down, things like that. So I began to wonder, okay, I'm designing a building that's gonna be safe, but who am I designing for the people inside the building? I didn't see that. But after transferring to ENVD, I felt that I really had my calling. So when I started school here, it was actually my 2nd semester, and I felt like a scared puppy. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to use an X-Acto knife. I couldn't cut chipboard. I couldn't do any of the basic things. It was through the guidance of all my friends and my professors that I was able to truly shine in this program. All the hours of studios, all the lectures, everything like that really helped me build my planning and design skills up and really helped pursue my passion. And I hope through your guys' time in ENVD that you're also able to pursue your passions through design and planning as well. One thing I wanted to do is really make sure that I let the professors know how much I deeply appreciate their efforts and that I really loved all the classes I've had in this program. I also wanted to thank my parents for being here and supporting me through college, as well as my boyfriend Tristan, who, without him, I don't know how he would have gone through those late night studio hours. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Nate Jones, and together with my colleague Shaheen Rudbari, we are here to introduce the ENVD Distinguished Student Graduate in Architecture. And it's needless to say that I am just absolutely humbled and thrilled to talk about Christina Liu, who is our Distinguished Graduate in Architecture. You know, in a lot of ways, I feel like I look up to Christina rather than vice versa. I am Christina's academic advisor, and I met her just a couple of years ago when I first started working with environmental design. She was just assigned to me on my roster. One day she appeared in my office for an advising consultation, and you know, after a few minutes into our conversation, I posed a question that I think really surprised her, given the quizzical look on her face. I asked her, Christina, I want you to talk a little bit about just you. Just tell me about yourself, what you're into, what your hobbies are, what you like, what you dislike. And I could tell by the look in her face, she was thinking, what's this strange dude asking me this stuff for? But after we kind of locked in, she dove into discussion about herself and just revealed just wonderful stuff about herself in terms of her interests, her abilities, her experiences, and I left that conversation with her deeply, deeply impressed. The impression that I had was, wow, here's just a brilliant young woman, a talented musician, a person of faith, but most importantly, somebody who really, really seemed to maintain just a real serious sense of ethics and morals. And I really love that. So we're 2 years down the road, and I've really enjoyed my association with Christine, and quite frankly, she hasn't changed that much. You know, she's gotten more skilled, which I've observed. She's absolutely developed as an architectural designer, as I've seen through her academic record and her portfolio, and also her studio projects. But most importantly, that sort of sense of ethics and values and integrity, I don't think really has changed. And I think that will serve her amazingly throughout her professional career and throughout her life. So congratulations, Christina, on just a wonderfully successful academic career, and also as just an amazing example of integrity and hard work to your fellow students, to your academic advisor, and to all your associates here at CU.
I want to add something. That was beautiful. Can I tell them the passport story? So, as Nate said, Christina is a person of many accomplishments, and they are incredible ones. As an ENVD student, member of our bands, a Betcher Scholar, and more and more and more. But I thought to share a story about when her limits were tested. In December 2016, Christina was part of a small ENVD research team dispatched to Santiago, Chile, to learn from architects fighting for social justice causes, for fair housing specifically. Field research, like the work we did, is easily the most intellectually and physically demanding work I've ever experienced. You're up early in the morning, interviewing people for long hours, navigating a new city, walking miles and miles a day, taking detailed notes and writing up analyses for hours, and trying to remember to eat and sleep, all in 24 hours for day after day after day after day. And I remember telling Christina and her co-researcher, Alicia Gonzalez, I remember them not taking my warnings about this seriously ahead of the trip. But by day 3, when they were basically hiding behind the walls of their fortress Airbnb, dreading another day of what probably makes boot camp for the Marines look like a walk in the park, sorry, Joe. When I was on the verge of feeling sorry for them, Christina persevered. And I almost certain this came after her muttering all sorts of profanities at me and life in general. But day after day, she made it to our way too early in the morning meeting times on time for another day of research and inspiration. Christina was a key interviewer with leaders of activist groups like Ukamau, with the founder of the world's largest architecture news site, ArcDaily, and with aging visionaries of housing justice like Cristian Castillo, and many other deeply inspirational figures. Christina persevered beyond physical and mental fatigue and beyond the impossibility of conversations in Chilean Spanish and the heat of Santiago's December summer to draw inspiration from those she met and to challenge herself and the team to uncover profound forms of power in architecture and to articulate how that power can be leveraged for social justice. So I thank her for helping to deepen my views around power and design and for motivating me to seek inspiration when I'm most challenged. So together with Nate, it's our privilege to introduce ENVD's distinguished graduate and a true architecture warrior, Christina Liu.
Thank you guys so much for such a kind introduction. So I guess we're supposed to speak a little bit. So, but anyways, hello everyone. I'm Christina, and I know the reality of graduation has not hit many of us yet, and for others, it has. But regardless, like it's absolutely crazy that we're finally done. And we could try and measure our time here in environmental design in so many ways. We can measure it in studio hours and all-nighters, X-Acto blade cuts and Band-Aids, cups of coffee and 1 a.m. Cosmo delivery hours, or delivery orders, hours of waiting for V-Ray to render, or days of trying to get your GIS to do what you want it to do. But we could measure it by the number of times we made and remade our portfolios over the years, and the number of times we've walked into the advising office and said, I have no idea what I'm doing. Regardless of how we measure it, though, I can confidently say that we have all come a long way from our overly complicated valise boxes and stick construction bridges our first year. Today, we're all designers, and we've made it. Together and individually, we've built playgrounds and houses, planned local and mountain communities, designed museums and culture centers, modeled marketplace pavilions, and even conceptualized buildings suitable for Mars. We've designed parks and hybrid farms and devised creative solutions for complicated transportation issues and crafted intriguing and functional furniture and so much more. It's weird to think that our lives as undergraduate designers has finally concluded. We've sacrificed so many hours of sleep and chances to eat 3, sometimes barely nutritious meals a day. But man, do we have a lot to show for it. Class of 2018, I hope you leave CU tonight proud of who we've all become and all that we're going to do in the future. No matter where you land or what you end up doing, I hope you think fondly on our time together and think fondly of your ENVD family. Thank you.
Hello. It's always a delight first to look into the audience and see the incredible faces looking back. I've had incredible opportunities to teach many of you, and when I get up here, it literally gives me shivers. Today I have the special honor to introduce the 2018 Environmental Design Distinguished Landscape Architecture graduate, Sarah Millar. Sarah Millar is also graduating with special honors for her high academic achievement in her undergraduate studies. I taught Sarah as a freshman in 1102, and again, prior to her senior year, through the global seminar in Rome. And through her years in environmental design, I got to see her tenacious work ethic and her sincere openness to the process of discovery. She accepted leadership roles in student organizations and challenged herself to step outside of her comfort zone, including her study abroad in Rome, Italy. Here in Rome, she took on new risks. She explored new cultures, food, and foreign language, and she also got lost a lot. She missed buses, trams, and possibly a subway train or two. And often at the beginning, she relied on her peers, some who are smiling back at me right now because they know, to get from point A to point B. She was late to class, even though she was a very talented and bright individual. And over the months in our travels in Italy, I got to see something happen to her. And there are moments in our lives that sometimes we have cataclysmic growth. Sometimes things are gradual, but something happened in this period in Italy. And at the end of our time, she traveled completely independently, confidently, with grace, and she traveled through Europe on her own. All the while, her passion for landscape architecture continued to expand. And I can say I don't think I had any influence on it because I myself is a practicing architect. And yet, seeing that grow inside of her, I couldn't help but encourage her passion. Continued through her travels and her studies. And I can remember her excitement as she sat in the garden in the Carini Stampaglia, which is a museum edition by Carlo Scarpa in Venice, Italy. She was sketching a labyrinthine water feature formed by tiered copper basins. It's absolutely stunning. These moments were the moments that were formative for her. And she, throughout everything, she embraced herself, her discovery, her passion, and both the gradual and the cataclysmic process of growth and transformation. I know that a lot of you sitting in the audience may wonder why we're honoring individuals when each of you have brought so much to each other. And one thing I'll say about Sarah is it's not just about her. There's a humility that comes with the incredible talent that she has and her ability to work in a team even when there are struggles. There were team struggles of different visions. And so recognizing that design is a collaborative process. But Sarah brings her authenticity, her talent, and her bright spirit to all that she does. And I know that she will continue to inspire others, as she has done me, in all of her professional pursuits. With this, I'd like to welcome Sarah to the stage.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Good evening, everyone. So when I was thinking of what to say for this speech, I figured that there was no better way to represent the strong sense of community in the program than hearing from not just me, but a diverse group of graduating students whom I have been so fortunate to get to know. This is what environmental design means to us. To Sierra Reed, environmental design has given me peers that encourage each other to be the best, and it has left me with a few X-Acto knife scars. To Elise Skinner, going through the environmental design program has been a great challenge, but also a great opportunity where I was able to build a strong community with classmates, faculty, and advisors. To Jen Forrester, ENVD was late nights in the studio, countless all-nighters, and compulsive obsession over the smallest of details. But more than that, it was a place where I discovered who I am, what I want to do, and the person I aspire to be later in life. To Claire Durr, ENVD means that growth is enabled through encouraging failure and experimentation. To Madden Kulgis, ENVD means all-nighters with close friends, committing to your work, and developing a passion for what you do. To Andrew Brickman, ENVD means long hours that were spent honoring my craft and creating things I was proud of. To Kelly Maas, ENVD means that all creative fields overlap and mutually complement each other, and being multidisciplinary in these fields is the only way you can create good design informed by context. To Chris Williams, it means family, a very stylish, sleep-deprived, upbeat, dysfunctional family. And finally, to me, ENVD was about pouring your heart and soul, literally blood, sweat, and tears, into every project, But more than that, it was about the growth of meaningful relationships with my classmates, with my instructors, with my family and support system back home, and of course, with myself. Thank you and congratulations, class of 2018.
We have a few students who are also distinguished fall 2017 distinguished graduates who are not able to be here today, and we would like to honor them even though they have either walked or are currently working. So for design studies, we have Hannah Benet Howie, who would, I would say, was a tremendous power and force in environmental design and contributed many wonderful things. Let's give her a round of applause. And then in planning, we have Anna Sparling, who also graduated in fall of 2017, a talented individual whose passion for the discipline will definitely pursue excellent things in the future. So let's give her a round of applause.
I'm honored to be standing up here today. As many of you may know, I'm also a graduate of this program. And I know firsthand how hard you worked and how much time you spent earning this degree. I have the honor to present two students. These two students are outstanding graduates. The first student graduated in December of 2017, and she earned the highest GPA in her graduating class. If everybody would give a round of applause for Natalie George. Natalie couldn't be here today because she has a real job now. She's working for Triba in Denver, and she's an exceptional student. Those of you who got to know her, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Now, when thinking of this next student, I was reminded of an interview that Steve Jobs gave back in 2011. He said, "When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside that world. Try to have a nice family, have fun, save a little money. But that's a very limited view of life," he said. "Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, that everything around you that you call life was built by people no smarter than you. And you can change it, you could influence it, and you could build your own things that other people can use. The minute that you understand that you can poke life and something will pop out on the other side, that you can change it, that you could influence it and mold it, well, that's maybe the most important thing. It's to shake off the erroneous notion that life is just there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, and make your mark upon it. Now, this next student that I'm about to introduce stands out and has a yearning to poke life, to make a change and mold it in her own eye. Not only did she work 2 jobs throughout school, but she maintained a semblance of a social life and earned the highest GPA in her graduating class of 2018. Right? She also received many scholarships and as an entrepreneur at heart. She participated in the New Venture Challenge this year. She did this all while maintaining composure and never complaining about anything. Well, at least not to me. So look out for this one, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our outstanding graduate, Asia Peters. I think you're supposed to get one of these.
Thank you, Justin, for that very generous introduction. Graduates, by this point in our careers in the program of environmental design, I know almost all of you by first name, by face, and by choice of font. Many of you may simply know me as the girl who used to sell her notes for John Barber's class. or by Century Gothic. And so it goes that we all somehow made it here. Congratulations. Like many of you, I have my family to thank for always nurturing my creativity. As a kid, whenever I was bored or anxious, my mom would say, "Go draw, go dance, go play in the mud, I don't care." And so making things became not only a hobby, but a form of therapy, and then a passion. We all have our professors, advisors, and studio instructors to thank for carrying the baton to further expand our intellectual minds, push our creative limits, and shed light on a variety of new perspectives about worlds we had never seen. And of course, I have this entire group of graduates to credit and thank. All of you are my classmates. Many of you have become my friends. Some I know I'll have for the rest of my life. And each of you has taught me something, whether it be how to use SketchUp, even though that's no longer relevant, how to wear the color black with any outfit, or how not to drink tequila. Thanks for that. Today is a profoundly distinguished day in all of our lives, not because of the absurd amount of student loans it took to get to this moment, and not necessarily because we never have to build a goddamn thing out of tiny wooden sticks ever again. Yeah. No. Today is worth celebrating because at this moment, we all have the opportunity to be courageous. Courageous in life and how we each choose to live it. Courageous in design, as each of you has proven to be very capable of. And courageous in love. Do what you love, go where you love, and be who you love. Don't settle for anything less, even if that choice is easier, less intimidating, or worth more to someone else. In the spirit of your typical graduation speech, I'd like to close with an excerpt by my favorite poet, Rumi, that I believe paraphrases this sentiment. Keep walking, though there's no place to get to. Don't try to see beyond the distances. That's not for human beings. Move within, but don't move the way fear makes you move. Infinite congratulations, and thank you all.
Emmanuel Didier is founding principal of Didier Design Studio based in Fort Collins in Denver. He has established himself in the Rocky Mountain Front Range and beyond over the past 15 years as a highly, highly respected landscape architect whose practice focuses on both place and making. Leaning on a strong pillar of environmental design, he does this by exploring relationships between ecological systems and cultural patterns of a given site. His studio investigates how analysis and ideas are merged to create dynamic spaces where people become connected to the natural environment, all while inspiring stewardship of the land. His work has appeared throughout the Rocky Mountain Front Range, including at the Denver Botanic Gardens, and as of yesterday, was awarded a project at the Penn State Arboretum. Emmanuel Didier.
Thank you all. It's a great pleasure being here. And I thought I was too young to do this, but Kevin thought that would be a great idea. Well, you did it. How do you feel? Does it feel good? Yeah, come on, say it. How do you feel good? Yeah? Good, good. What about parents? How do you feel? Good. That's loud. How do you feel, right? Well, congratulations to you all. I know it's a pretty precious time, and it's really an honor to come and meet you and talk to you and celebrate this time in your life. And I want to thank you, Kevin Krisnick, and then Marianne Olbert for inviting me to be here today. And also one of the students, I'm not sure, Rebecca Randolph, did you graduate? She gave me a tour of your program, and I was quite taken. It was wonderful to see that sense of tight community and the share of your studios. And I must say that's something I remember and I forgot is, I think universities in America are pretty incredible in building that sense of community. And still today, I'm always in touch with some of my fellow graduates and some of my professors, and I never hesitate to call and ask for advice. And I've always been very amazed and impressed that people take the time to go back, and actually there's a sense of sharing. This is pretty incredible. As you can tell already, I'm not from quite Colorado, more from France, but France has a different way of conducting a university, and really I went to UVA, and I've just never forgotten those days. And I had 2 degrees, a degree in architecture and a degree in landscape architecture, and so I really relate to your passion for going into a program that really tends to celebrate that sense of cross disciplines, and I think that's really for a best way of engaging into the future. So what I wanted to do for today was share just a few stories maybe, and kind of very honestly acknowledge that when I was about 19, I was not sure what I wanted to do, and I just love drawing, I love biology, I love the outdoor, I love science, and I was not sure how I was going to merge those 2 worlds. But it's kind of interesting. There are things I think I knew and things that I understood, and those 2 worlds are actually quite different. And when I went to choose what I wanted to do, I didn't quite realize what I was meant to do, even though I had some interesting ways of relating to architecture early on. So one thing I would do, for example, I had a friend of mine, and we were in high school. One thing we loved to do where I grew up, there was this huge cathedral in the center of the city in Tours. And at night, they were doing renovation, and it was pretty amazing. We did this crazy thing where we could climb up the cathedral at night by the scaffolding, find our way all the way up, go through the gutters. The gutters are quite wide. The gutters of a cathedral are about that wide. So it's almost like a grand alley, and we could walk in. And what I discovered there was pretty incredible. You could come in and discover this world of architecture where the stone meets the wood, and this space where only pigeons were going. Nobody else would go up there. We were just going and kind of discovering this place in the middle of the city as if it was a forest of carpentry and wood and timber. And all that crafted centuries ago. What was very humbling, and part of what I'm sharing with you, I think when we talk about passion, what it means is that one of the towers that were being worked on, the masons would come all day, and I think they are some of the most humble job. They were doing this replacement of old stone that had been carved, and they were doing this amazing job, and all there was there, when I was there looking at their work at night, there was just that moonlight. And you could see their work completely done with full passion and generosity. And you know that nobody was going to come and look at those stones. It was not about being famous. And I want to tell you that because when you come out of school, I think one of the things is that sense of being nervous and thinking, what am I going to do? And feel like you have to prove something right away. And I think to borrow your image of the soup, I didn't know you were going to talk about soup. If I had known that, I would have brought my own recipes and share with you all. But you talk about minestrone. I don't know too much about minestrone, but when you make onion soup, the very reassuring thing is that the more it goes, the better it gets. So when you start, it's kind of, you start with raw ingredients like onions, nothing too special. And what it takes is really just that patience of staying with it and stir, and it gets better. And I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So don't rush through things, take your time, but bring in your work that generosity and that passion in what you do. And I think that will lead you. So I know today, a lot of you graduate, you chose this program, and whether you continue purely in design, or whether you go into business, or whether you go into filmmaking, or whether you do into politics, just carry that with you. Design is a pretty powerful thing. What is design, right? So in my mind, it's that power of imagination. I think what you bring as designers that is very precious to this world is imagination. To me, what imagination means is the ability of foresee something, an idea that some others may not quite see yet, and to carry it through and to work with people to make that vision visible and tangible. And There is a French author, his name is Céline, and not necessarily my best favorite author at all, quite a strange character, but he said one thing, he said, you know, if there was more imagination in this world, I don't think we would have wars. Because if people could really imagine what it means to put others in a suffering, I don't think you could go to war. I don't think you would not start a war, because you just know, you could imagine what it would mean. I think what it means to me when I read that book early on was that some of those things maybe I had with me, imagination, and the ability to let go of the thoughts and see in the future, not necessarily everybody is having that same skill. So you all went to a school of design, and I imagine you have that imagination or that talent. And so whether you go into politics or others, you should carry that with you as a way of thinking, I may be able to foresee something that others don't, and instead of imposing it, what you want to do is work with people to really mature those visions together. You should be the one helping make those visions tangible. And I think what you all did, I went through your studios and I was impressed. I saw some pretty amazing models with lots of sticks. And by the way, I still build models with sticks, so I hope you don't stop. I think sticks are wonderful. You can test a lot of ideas with sticks. And if you do it well, I think you can make sticks look anything. So don't stop the sticks. Actually, every tool is a good tool. But that's where imagination comes into play. But a lot of people, when you're stuck in a situation, you know, the world is changing tremendously. We're under a lot of pressures, a lot of tension, it feels like. And I think the ability to come up with ideas and give them forms is really something precious. So I want to share a couple of those stories with you that enlightened me. So I think when I went to art school, going back, one thing I learned there is that even though I was not completely in my element, maybe, I kind of learned to trust the process and realizing that I didn't need to start to know what I wanted to express or do before I would start making, but actually making was what was allowing me to discover. And I think that's a sense of freedom. When you're kind of stuck and thinking and wondering what to do, actually making is a powerful thing. Another thing so I went to art school, and I didn't know I was going to do landscape architecture, and then I traveled. So if you don't know what you want to do, actually traveling is pretty incredible, and I just heard some pretty good stories of getting lost in Rome as not being so sad after all. And food is okay, right, in Rome? Yeah? Yeah, travel. I think that's what you should do. I don't know if you all, what you're all doing this summer, but if you don't have an internship, if you don't have a specific job, just don't wait. Just pack up your bag and go. I think you're going to learn tremendous things. When I went to Boston, I was super excited to leave France, actually, and come to America. And I live right under the Citgo sign, and you know nothing of baseball. I know, like, next door to me was a Fenway, and some people were screaming when someone was hitting a ball. I didn't know what was happening. But one thing I discovered was the work by Olmsted. You've heard of Olmsted, right? We kind of defined some of the rooting and that vision for what landscape architecture could be. And I saw his work, and that's actually that's kind of where I knew, actually. That's where I realized what I wanted to do. And what I saw was this image of the swamp. How many of you have been in Boston? Know Boston? Yeah? Do you know some of the emerald necklace with that drainage? The city is kind of a swamp, and so trying to drain it, he was being very honest and carrying that water and creating this very amazing environment where people were not suddenly getting sick every day, and you could build houses, but you could have the park as a way of collecting the water, channeling the water, draining the city, building health for people. And as part of that, there was a sense of honesty, I think, in his work, in describing in that landscape the history of making of Boston. And I thought that was very powerful. You could see the reeds, you could see that water, and right in contrast to this, you could see some of the towers, like the Prudential Tower and Hancock Tower, with all of those antennas and the high-tech and the receptions of digital data, and those two worlds colliding against one another, I thought was very powerful as a way of making a city. And I realized that was beyond what I knew of art, actually, and I think stronger. And that's where I discovered to go into landscape architecture and architecture, realizing that the fact that you could inherit so much cultural heritage from all of the civilization coming in together and making a city, you could inscribe that in the making of the space. And I thought that was very powerful. So back to maybe the power of working across disciplines. I was fortunate when I moved to Colorado, I worked for a firm called EDA. And EDA was created, how many of you know of the history of EDA, some of the students? You should know about it because I think that was pretty outstanding. In California, it was 4 people really from different disciplines coming together and kind of maybe in some ways inventing some of the roots, would you agree with me, of what you could call environmental design, and really merging together architecture, landscape architecture, and planning, and really doing something pretty powerful with it. When I joined their team, I was quite fascinated where I realized I had to push myself to really build my own focus and my own passion. So in some ways, when you all graduate from a degree with multiple disciplines, the fact that you would choose your own path within that is very important. So you can really contribute to significant projects. But then remaining agile and stay alert of what's happening across the aisle and working with others is also equally very important. So I want to share with you because I had a great project I was allowed to work on, and I thought that was a very humbling journey where I went, there was a lot of master planning happening in Rwanda. And I don't know how many of you know or remember that Rwanda suffered this terrible genocide where almost brought the country back to a kind of a ground zero. And it was terrible where so many people died, and a lot of the older people died. And when I went there, and there was a lot of planning of the city of Kigali, it was all about reinventing what this place wanted to be. And what was very humbling, I would show up at meetings, and you know, you're in America and in Europe, you're used to going to meetings where the Minister of Infrastructure would be someone who is 80 years old maybe, and lots of, or not so much white hair. And over there, what was amazing, everybody was about 35 years old. And it was incredible to see this young generation taking on their own destiny. And what they did is that after the genocide, they realized they had to go get their degrees, study, but they really had to right away experiment with it and apply that knowledge and that research toward what does that mean to build a new city in Rwanda that is kind of fostering democracy as well as respectful of their culture. The biggest challenge was that for the longest time, Rwanda was a country really based on agriculture. And suddenly, everybody was moving to the city. Everybody was abandoning the agricultural land. And what does that mean to create a city where agriculture and the culture associated to agriculture can still be part of it and not forgotten? And how can you integrate high-tech and sustainability and all of those new ways of building a city? And that was really fascinating. And I hope you get to do those kinds of projects where you're kind of focusing on your own practice, whether it's landscape architecture or economics or so forth, and really working with others and a team, and working with those communities and really foster that sense of trust. And over the years, really build some pretty incredible projects that are really looking into the future. I could keep going. Or I could let you graduate. I don't know what I'm going to do. So maybe, let's see, I had some papers, but then I confused the order, so just give me 1 minute. I talked about that, yeah. So anyway, you know, I feel like I'm still very much just carving my own journey. And it's interesting, like the same way you're entering yours, or you're kind of 5 years in or 4 years in and ongoing. Just don't hesitate to tell people you don't know. Don't hesitate to reconnect to your teachers or to your fellow students. Understand it's a very small, needed community, and you're going to see each other again. It doesn't matter where you go. Scott Carman here, we work together, and it's kind of fun to keep seeing each other. And just follow what you think is most important. Like, don't try to build that name of yours right away, but take on the challenge, and don't take no as an answer. And if someone takes the time to tell you that they think your idea is not quite ready yet, don't take that as an offense. Take that as a compliment. The fact that someone will take the time to look at your work and say, hey, I think you need to work more on that, is a very positive thing. And just come back at it and realize maybe you didn't tell your story right. So anyway, I'm very humbled to see you all here, and I wish you a great journey, and I hope you keep searching and you never just go for the easy answer. I hope you keep digging, and I hope to see your name sometime, and I hope you can give that speech sometime soon. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Beautiful insights that appropriate the balance between challenging you as designers moving forward, but also providing some reassurance that you were on the right path for the past 4 years. And also providing to the outside audience here, 2/3 of the room here, the value of the degree of a Bachelor of Environmental Design. One of the very few places in the country where you can really be able to prioritize and exploit this interdisciplinary connection within the design professions. So at this point, we would like to individually recognize each of our graduates. I'd like to invite to the stage Kim Drennan, instructor, and Shaheen Rudbari, assistant professor, who will individually recognize each student. And you're not allowed to leave yet, though. You have to come back to your seat. Sounds good? All right.
Hi, my friends. You get ticket number 1. And let me give this to you, and I'll get ticket number 2.
Claire Rivers Durr.
Kelly Moss.
Andrew Brickman.
William Oberlander.
Gintari Villamaite.
Jesse Koenig. Don't forget to read the rest.
Annie Mositis.
Jen Forrester. Specialization Architecture, Certificate Technology, Arts and Media.
Richard Karsten. Architecture.
Eric Seneca Brown Malone Jr., Landscape, Certificates in Field Artillery Officer.
August Rodello, Planning.
Elias Claremont, ENVD Specialization, Planning.
Emily Sickles, Planning.
Brianna Workman, Design Studies, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Reichley Lynch, Architecture, Certificate, TAM.
Megan McCurdy, ENVD Specialization, Planning.
Jacob Archambault, Design Studies.
Ashley Elizabeth Stark, Architecture, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Carissa Marie Atencio, Architecture.
Sam Walker, Architecture, Business minor.
Brent McGuire, Architecture.
Niall Thompson, Architecture.
Sultan Al-Shoaib, Architecture. Lighting Design Certificate.
William France, Architecture, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Madden Kulgis, Architecture, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Federica de Lemos Lopez, Design Studies.
Eduardo Samayoa, Design Studies, Certificate in Lighting Design and Engineering Management.
Jacob Vornholt, Architecture.
Dominic Hathaway, Architecture, minor in Technology, Arts and Media, and Certificate in Lighting Design.
Sydney Stetzel, Architecture.
James Sato Templeton, Landscape Architecture.
Leila Wahidi, Urban Planning.
Anthony Ortiz, Landscape Architecture.
Alec Oswald, Planning.
Joshua Magallanes, Architecture. Operations Management and Business.
Ahmed El Nagadi, Architecture.
Callie Preston, Architecture.
Matthew Anthony Murray, Architecture.
Kyle Matthew Johnson, Architecture.
Bryce Fish, Design Studies.
Shane Trento, Landscape Architecture, Certificate in Engineering Management.
Tyler Joseph Schwanegert, Architecture.
Augie Morris, Architecture, minor in Philosophy.
Miranda Marcel Midler, Architecture.
Lisa Miskowski, Architecture.
Michaela Kasky, Architecture, minor in Technology, Art, and the Media.
Bradley Miller, Architecture, minor Technology, Arts and Media.
Jeffrey Mittler, Architecture, minor in Business.
Jose Primellas, Design Studies, Certificate in Lighting.
Wenji Yan, Architecture, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Christine Hopkins, Architecture.
Annie Cooper, Architecture.
Julia Roseberry Stauffer, Architecture.
Sienna Reed, Landscape Architecture, TAM Certificate.
Kara Pars, Design Studies.
Stefan Kanya, Design Studies, minor in Technology, Arts, and Media.
Christopher Blake Williams Kovacs, Architecture, minor in Philosophy.
Audrey Grace Freeman, Architecture.
Caitlin Jo Worth, Architecture, minor in Technology, Arts and Media.
Aketomo Amai, Architecture.
Batbolt Arunbat, Architecture.
Shin Lee, Architecture, Certificate in TAM. Congrats.
Ryan Gorospi, Landscape Architecture.
Nick Moulton, Landscape Architecture.
Peter Ganfield, Architecture, minor in Business Entrepreneurship.
John Maccaro, Landscape Architecture.
Riley Stephen Eichler, Landscape Architecture.
Gregory Blampied, Architecture, minor in Photography.
Dixon Stein, Architecture, Certificate in Lighting Design.
Hunter Hine, Architecture.
Ryan Landis, Architecture.
Joe Heineke and Max, urban planning.
Bing Drink Fan, architecture, certificate in lighting design.
Sarah Elizabeth Millar, landscape architecture. Elise Skinner, design studies.
Elim Mura Hassin, planning, business.
Christopher Diaz, architecture, certificate in lighting design.
Christina Liu, architecture, minor in Spanish.
Natalie Boniano, design studies.
Asia Michaela Peters, design studies.
We are fully aware that owing to the references to soups and everything else that you may be hungry. We are interested in seeing that line dissipate just a little bit further, but I think that we're in a good enough shape. Two quick logistical elements. If you are in need of transport, that will be accessible right outside this patio. As you exit, you'll stare at the flat irons onto the veranda, if you will. We are warmly welcoming you to the ENVD building, where you can, many of you can see where your students slept. And you can see the first aid kits and everything in between. So to do that, there's a senior exhibit that will be on display, and furthermore, we will have heavy hors d'oeuvres. So if your stomach is growling, we have food for you, and we welcome you to come participate in that. And students, I encourage you to encourage your parents to see the wonderful work that you and your colleagues have produced. To attend that exhibit, you go out these doors, you take a right, you go to the end, you take a right, you go down the stairs, you take a right, 3 rights, and then just walk about 50 yards. Sounds good? So, if I could just warmly allow all of us to collectively acknowledge, ladies and gentlemen, the graduating class of the program in environmental design. Thank you all for your support. We look forward to seeing you in the ENVD building.